I'm bored. Hey everyone, tell me, what do you do when you're bored? You read a book, go outside maybe, or some of you may just sleep to get those precious hours back. For me though, when I'm bored, I play some fan games. And let's be honest with ourselves here, those games aren't lacking in the Touhou fandom. In fact, all you need to do is check any Touhou related website to find a good amount of them, lying around and waiting to be played. And with the release of Hidden Star in 4 Seasons and Antinomy of Common Flowers on Steam, it's much easier for little publishers to make themselves known by publishing a game onto it. But is it really a good thing? Of course, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say that people should not publish games they have worked on. After all, the point of fan games is that they are made by fans and therefore are not restricted by the normal quality checks that is implied on the original games. But this is also what I am afraid of. Since they are not restricted by anything in particular, especially by how far something can be plagiarized, it's not uncommon to see things like this. Happy Stealing with Marisa Kurisame. If you followed the meme trends, you may know about this game known as Baldies Basics in Education and Learning. This game was originally created as a parody of 80s educational video games, and so by extension, the game itself is a joke. The premise being extremely simple: try to escape from the school while being chased by your professor. If your professor gets you, you die. It's as simple as that. The issue is that when you take this joke too far, you get Happy Stealing with Marisa Kurisame, a game which tries to be a real one by taking the formulae of the game we just spoke about. However, the goal here is different, with you trying to escape the Scarlet Devil mansion, or what it's supposed to look like, and steal as much books as you can without being caught by Patchouli. Of course, you may be saying that this game keeps the joke going, but here's the issue with this. It's not free. Even with the ridiculous price of 79 cents, it's still an investment that by extension is badly representing Touhou in general. Hell, even other games, which aren't even from the Touhou franchise, manage to honor its legacy better. If you want an example, look no further than len'en Project. Now I know what you're thinking. But Cernist, len'en isn't even a Touhou game. You can't compare it to other fan games. But no, that's wrong! Because even if the game isn't directly related to the Touhou franchise, it still draws heavy inspiration from it. Your argument is just out of focus. Okay, let's get back to being serious. Some might call this plagiarism because the story also happens in the fictional world of not Gensoku, and the main characters are not Yukari Akumo and not Marisa Kurisame. But to be honest, if you forget your pre-existing knowledge of Touhou, the game is incredibly fun. So yes, it takes pre-existing elements like the Greys and calls it thrill, but the further the game series goes, the more it innovates and becomes something on its own. For example, in the last game you have a grid-based movement system, barriers that protect your health, random modifiers, 3 character parties, different type of bombs, fucking upgrades in the Danmaku game. The main issue I think people have with this is that Jinx, the creator of the len'en series, is mostly known for its remake of the PC-98 games of Touhou, which he never released to the public. And while I completely agree as to why people get angry at him, please enjoy what he gave us. Those games are, unlike Happy Stealing with Marisa Kurisame, plenty of unadulterated fun, and the funniest part is that it is quite recent. The latest one, for example, came out at the beginning of 2018. But for those who are still dubious about what I just said, I guess you want to see a fun game that is entirely related to Touhou, huh? Oh well, let me bring up the big gun in that case. Here we have Mystical Chain! A 2009 title, huh? Damn, it almost makes 10 years this game exists. Makes you wonder how much Touhou is going to stick around for. But if you've played this game, you can clearly see why I consider it a very good fan-made game, and that is mainly due to how the game was built. First of all, the appearance of the game is very reminiscent of Immaterial and Missing Power, Scarlet Weather Rhapsody and Unthinkable Natural Laws 1, and for good reasons, since this game was made before Unthinkable Natural Law came out. For some, it might be a lazy way to reuse assets, but all of the sprites were redone so the game would look as fluid as the originals. As for the gameplay, they decided to go for another approach and make the game a stage-to-stage beat-em-up instead of a one-on-one fighting game. And with the way the three characters are built, Marisa being for close range, Alice mid-range, and Patchouli for long range, the gameplay feels extremely smooth and satisfying as a result. The story, well, it's not that complicated and it's more of a pretext to force you to just pummel your enemies to death.
Yeah, pummel it nice and clean, Alice. I know you like it.
But to be honest, the story of Touhou games has never been too complicated, so this isn't an issue here. Overall, if you haven't played this one, you should try it to understand what I mean when I say that this is a good representative of Touhou fan games. Now, of course, I gave this impression that good fan games for Touhou were made in the past. And obviously, this is wrong on so many stages. But for the sake of being fair, I'm going to show you a good fan game that was made recently and that even proves my point, because it is on Steam. The Disappearing of Gensokyo. Now this is a good and recent fan game. Of course, it isn't a shooter or fighting game, but in a sense I guess it's a bit of both. How about this? A top-down slasher where you dodge bullets. Yeah, that seems about right. Anyhow, let's move forward. The Disappearing of Gensokyo is a story-driven game in which you play as Tenchi and another character present in the game's roster that you progressively unlock the further you get into the game. The gameplay stays overall the same throughout the game, but it becomes increasingly difficult as you move forward, though you can make it easier by getting upgrades for points you collect in-game. Of course, the release of this game on Steam was more or less buggy. As a day one player, I can attest this. But even with some bugs, it was enjoyable nonetheless because the gameplay was satisfying. The real bugger with this game for me is the unholy use of DLC to get additional characters. This is honestly a point I would have liked to avoid. This game is sure fun, but it would have been better if all the content was inside the game rather than having a paywall for some characters. Nonetheless, I had a fun time playing it.
Except you, pre-patch Junko.
But I think this game helps us draw a line to separate good fan games that are worth our time and overall bad fan games. Well, not just one, but a couple in fact. First, is it free? If not, then be careful. For example, The Disappearing of Gensokyo might ask money, but the game is fun without the DLCs. Second, is the game well paced? If not, then obviously the game is going to bore you after a while. A game is an investment of your time after all. And third, does it follow any kind of trend? By trend, I do not mean game genre, because of course something similar might release. I instead mean, does it follow something that is only known by a small public? But to be honest, even if you should be asking yourself those questions, just play whatever you like. I'm not here to tell you what to do. The reason plenty of fan games exists is because not all fans have the same taste, and that is perfectly normal. Or is it hard? I don't know. The only question that should really matter to you and me is it fun? After all, we don't play games to ask ourselves questions. We do that in order to relieve stress or just have a good time. If you spend those 97 cents on Happy Stealing with Marisa Kirisame, who am I to judge? Maybe you had a great time. But I hope you'll try those other games and not limit yourself to what I just said, because after all, life's content can only be widened with fan-made DLCs. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed this video. I am sorry for the delay that it took. I honestly had a ton of stuff outside of editing, so I tried to do my best here in order to deliver you something worth watching. Even then, for those that are new and want to follow, just hit the subscribe button down there. And with that said, I'll go and play something else.